Welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel as we have a very important day as we have the new monthly. It is now March, so good morning to you in the future over here in the eastern hemisphere of this world in Helsinki, Finland. A very warm Helsinki, Finland, and as always, I would like to be wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Tuesday. March 1st. Anyways, we got plenty to talk about on the higher term timeframes. A lot has actually changed in the last 24 hours. We did not get any validations for any of the major bearish setups. In fact, we got the validations for the Bula-ish setups, of which those are playing out right in front of your very face. In fact, the first and second target have been hit from the confirmation above the 39,550-ish region, of which we were looking for a short-term move to the upside yesterday. Now we're getting continuation from that. So that is happening a little bit faster than what I would have anticipated. But that is, as always, going to play into the overall meme that probably happens within the next few weeks. Nope, the next few days, I do suspect. Anyways, with that in mind, I want to now get into the Krown trading application. Actually, in fact, we're going to come back to this a little bit later. However, I should let you know that the premium features are now live. You can learn more about them in the Learn More tab. Essentially just gives you more underlying market dynamics and more pertinent data feeds. And for the biggest question that I do get, yes, indeed, you do get access to the Jewel Light as well. Anyways, I'm going to get off that for the time being, and I want to get right into what I'm going to refer to as the chart of the day. And that is this one right here, specifically with interest on the accumulation distribution indicator right here. Something very critical has happened, something that has been, well, infallible since the dawn of time for Bitcoin has once again given a major signal. So there's your clickbait bullshit of the day. But what I want to explain right here is with this indicator, all slope changes on it have correlated to macro shifts in direction during Bitcoin's history, especially at the extremities here as well. I'm going to overlay these green vertical bars right here that correlate with these slope changes. And you can just see very quickly on the actual chart itself that these have been major pivots on price action, obviously, both to the upside and to the downside. Again, we're focusing on the extremes. Yes, I did run a regression through this as well, but I don't necessarily think that has to be like exact for what it's worth. But ultimately, we do see since the dawn of time, every slope change at those major extremes has been a macro shift in direction, starting with this first one in August 2011. Now, to be fair, we didn't really have much enough history over here to really probably get it at the perfect level. But you will notice after that, in June 2012, getting the low right here before the next major massive move to the upside. In this case, we're talking about from that signal given to the next signal was about a 24,000% move. I am not suggesting that is what is about to happen on Bitcoin right now, for just to be 100% clear. But once we got the next slope change right here to the downside, that was your next 70 to 80% pullback, no crash, as Bitcoin does come down from about 1,300 all the way to the lows of 2015 at about 176. Then gets another slope change right here in August 2015 before a major massive move to the upside. In this case, getting a move about almost 8,300%. So that is, again, kind of ridiculous, we might say, but that is why we love Bitcoin after all. And then, of course, got another slope change in February to March of 2018. That was your bear market a few years ago and leading up to the ultimate price of January 2019 at about 3,100 before that nice little pump-ola from the bottom to the top of about 340% almost. And then got another slope change to the downside right here, right before the old flu dump, as you might remember, and that did lead into about a 50% move to the downside. And then once again, we saw it flip to the downside right around here in July 2021. And that has been essentially steadily down and corrective all the way through until this month of March. We identified coming into February that the slope had drastically lessened right here, and now coming into March, it has officially gotten to the positive side. So that is a pretty big sign for Bula's long term. There is one major counterpoint that I'd add on to this information here, simply because we do not see that this slope change is coming in the context of the red zone right here. I don't know how much that's actually going to matter. I suspect that obviously it's more good than bad, but ultimately the prior major macro lows have all come within the red zone, just for clarity's sake. So there's a bit of a counterpoint right there, but ultimately I would say that this is obviously, more good than bad. Of course, let's follow up on the short-term time frame analysis that we had over the past, like week or so here. And essentially yesterday we were looking for a short-term move to the upside somewhere around the mid $39,000 region, about 39,500. And then we said, hey, if there is a lower term time frame closure above there, in this case a 4-hour closure above there, I'd be looking for extension all the way up to 41,500, and then very likely the top end end, or sorry, the bottom end of this blue box territory right here, which is in the shallow $44,000. Bitcoin pretty much did that whole move in less than a day, which is kind of insane. I wasn't expecting it to happen that fast, but that's not necessarily why I'm like interested in timing moves, because I don't think that it can really be done all that well. But looking at moves in the context of current ranges, that I do believe has a lot of validity to it. You can see it operating rather technically right here. So what I want to focus on right here in this particular case is the fact that Bitcoin has gotten above and closed a daily above the 618 Fibonacci retracement. This was a bearish retracement from the high to the low of our current structure. And the reason why this is relevant is because as Bitcoin did close above the 618, in this case, it does drastically reduce the probabilities that this is going to end up bearish. Of course, if you are a little more conservative, and I do think that conservativeness is warranted, although there are several other signals that we're going to go over soon enough that support this, you probably still want to see a daily closure above about 44,500 or $45,000 on a 4-hour closure. It's the same criteria that we've been having for, I think, a little bit more than a month now, actually, for major continuation into probably the mid $50,000 territory in the following few weeks, maybe month, or maybe just the next few days. The rate things are going. No, of course not. Again, I don't really claim to like time moves, for example. I don't think that can necessarily be done to like a good degree, to a consistent degree, I should say. Anyways, in this particular case, that has actually happened. And so whilst I probably would be looking for a bit of a pullback off this move, it's been a rather big day. In fact, probably the biggest day I think that we've seen in like a year or so, in this case, to the upside, that is, not necessarily to the downside, but almost a 20% gainer to the upside over the course of 24 hours, which is rather significant. Well, I probably would be looking for maybe a little bit of a pullback in the short-term timeframes. In this case, can very easily come back down somewhere around the daily 55s. We did overtake that yesterday, which is right around about 41,800 or so. So any sort of a pullback down around there, it's completely fair game. However, I don't really have a strong opinion on that. My strong opinion is on as long as Bitcoin is above, especially that $41,500 pivot on a higher term time frame closure, that being a daily, I am essentially looking for this more than likely to trade sideways and up from this region, maybe after a short-term pullback. In that case, I should also focus on the other higher term timeframes, of which we have the weekly right here. We identified coming into this week that there was potential 2 drives of hidden bullish evidence come off this low, and also of significant interest, a higher low. In fact, Bitcoin, in this case right here on the weekly, at around $38,000 versus the prior one at about $36,400. So we do have, essentially a major macro low in place, combining that with what we saw over here on the accumulation distribution indicator. And then of course, looking at the actual range resolution right here, which on a weekly, you probably want to see it close above about $44,000 would very likely do it. And because it does have a couple drives of hidden bullish divergence, there would be a technical target, very likely somewhere into the mid to low $50,000 territory. Doesn't mean that things will stop there for forever, but I'd essentially be looking for that move to happen before judging things further on it, relative to this time frame. In this case, we do see that volatility is in a relatively low posture right here. But more importantly, one thing that we've been really focusing on, not on this exchange, but on this exchange, on the macro, was the monthly volatility represented by BBWP. Anytime that we've seen volatility get very, very low on the monthly and then cross the moving average on it, those have been, well, all of these areas here, which have been macro lows. So that, again, in alignment with the accumulation distribution indicator, in alignment with the weekly hidden bullish divergence, and volatility, we have volatility trend and momentum, and also a weekly higher low as well. So again, we haven't really spoken too much about the lower term timeframes in this particular case. I should also denote 2 more things, and then we'll come up with some invalidation conditions for what would be like massively concerning. Spoiler alert, it's 40,400, below there. Very fucking bad, obviously. But for right now, things can pull back down basically to like 41 to 41,500, not really do all that much damage, at least in the way that I look at things. Anyways, let's go over, where's my chart? Is it this one? It is this one. Should denote also that we did have a weekly stochastic momentum on CME officially cross the upside. Oh, sorry, actually this already happened last week, so we already called this one out. ADX is also fully contracted as well, so we are looking at this as potential major signal, especially if DMI flips in that same direction. Not gonna happen anytime soon, about 48,850, but you can imagine that if that technical target does play out, naturally that will coincide with that. Weekly, same thing as well, a little bit higher in this case. And the monthly stochastic momentum, which we are also looking at, that's actually moved higher from month to month. The last coming into March, we saw that it's going to flip up above about 54,000 bucks. In this case, it is going to flip up now above about 61,200. So what does that essentially mean? It does mean that momentum is still corrective here. So we're still looking at a macro consolidation, most likely, or at best case scenario, a macro consolidation basically between 35,000 bucks and about 55,000 bucks on a closing basis. Until we have a resolution above or below that region, it's not really wise to be calling major macro direction, but you can see now that the monthly specifically is starting to put in, what could very well be your first higher, or I shouldn't say your first higher low in a long time in this case. And that would also imply, or not imply, but also confirm hidden bullish divergence potential right here between our summer lows in June and this low right here. That would naturally have a technical target basically into the shallow $60,000 territory. Again, it's a monthly, it's not happening anytime soon. And I should denote also that throughout this month of March, things can very easily come back down, somewhere around about 40,000 bucks, maybe even a little bit below $40,000. And it'd just be a backfill in last month open, which is not really that concerning in this case. What would be concerning is closing below about 38,000 bucks. Obviously that's well and far away from right now, but as you've seen, Bitcoin can sneeze and move about 5,000 bucks, in a few days. Not a humongous issue right there. Should also denote on the bi-monthly, Bitcoin did close as a nice hammer diddle right there. Not really getting any significant or obvious signals on here just yet. Same sort of potential hidden bullish divergence would be called here if we do confirm this as a local low, but we just closed this one, so it's not happening anytime soon. What's a little more interesting to me is actually the quarterly, as we will be closing it at the end of this month in March, and this would be quite good. This would imply, I wouldn't say it's all-time highs the quarter after that, maybe earliest Q4, as we've been saying on this channel. But ultimately, it would have a much more long-term bullish implication, but long-term, I just want to make sure that I'm not making this sound like this is going to happen fucking tomorrow. It's not. It's very unlikely to. If it is going to happen, it's going to happen probably around end of year. So yeah. Okay, cool. I think I've spoken your head off for about 12 minutes here. We didn't really speak too much about lower term timeframes. Again, I don't really have a reason to invalidate anything short term as long as you're above about 41.5, let's call it. Just nice and easy to remember. Technically, it's a little bit higher than that, but fair enough. And then I'd actually get bearish below about 40,000, let's call it, on a higher time frame closure. That would look pretty damn bad. But in this case right here, short-term time frames, can they pull back after a colossal move like that? Yes, absolutely. Even a couple $1,000 pullback right here wouldn't be too problematic. Again, assuming that daily closures are still above those critical regions. And for the next sort of major continuation phase, well, actually, let me go to this chart right here. I would be looking at a 4-hour closure above $45,000 or a daily above about 44,500 with targets up somewhere into the basically 49 to 50,500 right here for, in the following, I don't know, week or two, maybe shorter than that, who the hell knows. And then probably more continuation over time. So with all of that said, a lot of things have happened in the last 24 hours and they happened damn fast. So, well, this is, that is crypto, man. And that's why we love it. Anyways, I want to wish you well. I want to say that also we'll have another live stream analysis tomorrow. Forgot to go over the underlying market dynamics over here, but I want to highlight very quickly the funding rates are negative throughout this move. The short-term funding rates are a little bit more on the positive side. They are actually essentially at parity at 0.01%. So not anything too crazy, or crazy at all for that matter. But on the daily feed, yeah, they are about negative 0.03%, or sorry, negative 0.03%. Again, a little bit more on the bullish side overall. But after a big move like that, typically are going to see a bit of a pullback first day, and then continuation maybe a little bit later this week. Anyways, hopefully that was in some way helpful. I want to be signing off now. I want to wish you well, take care, and see you hopefully tomorrow.